Yo, what's up, man? It's Jonathan Owens here, another episode of The Word Spoken. And today we're about to tackle some tough questions that people, Christians, have been wrestling with for probably thousands of years. A long time. People have been trying to guess what's going on in the stars and the heavens. They've been trying to answer these questions. God has already given us the answers. The problem is that sometimes Christians, we get confused. We learn new things and we try to impose that on the Bible. But oftentimes, yes, also that we have thought that we've had the correct view of something, and that has not been the right view. But also, we've had the correct view, and we also could try to change it if it doesn't fit what we like anymore. A whole bunch of that goes into that. But let's dive into these things that have been, some of it that has been talked about a long time, and then some of it that has been popular, over the last maybe year or so, especially the first, talking about the flat earth. Oh, that's going to be good. Before we go on, subscribe and like, do me a favor, man. I hope this whole episode blesses you. Let's dive into that. So, a couple questions we're going to be answering. So, first, we're going to talk about the flat earth, dinosaurs in the Bible. Can that be reconciled? Like, how can dinosaurs, who we know who are terrible, how could they have lived with Adam and Eve or lived with all the humans? But at the same time, how can we say that dinosaurs were here all by themselves when that contradicts what the Bible says? So we're gonna go to that. Then we're gonna go to whether the young earth creationist or old. How are we gonna settle this and what the Bible says about that? So let's go to that. So flat earth. Now, the concept of the flat earth, what makes, if you got Christians that believe in this, the Genesis, wherever you try to describe it, whether the water, what it says in Genesis, the water that stands out of the water, or God separated the waters, I don't know how you can take from that, make it say flat earth. But it's also important that as Christians, we don't allow the science to influence something that the Bible has already says. But what's in science is just revealing what God has already said. We act like science is actually something else, an entity. Science is just a way of knowing. Science is just unraveling what God has already did. So science can't be against the Bible if that science just figuring out or seeing or making us be revealed to what God has already done. So it's not counterintuitive. They are not mutually exclusive. They are inclusive, because you can only do science with what God has already done. So if people don't, especially Christians, if we don't see that they have already taken pictures of the earth, they have already gone up into space and saw that the earth is a sphere, and you don't believe that, like the science of the astronauts, the astronomy, the astrophysicists, they just revealed what God has already created. What's the problem with that? So how are you still believing in the flat earth when God has already revealed, God has already did it, and then astrophysicists and astronomers and scientists and NASA, they went up and they already discovered what God has already made. But let's be fair to the point. What do flat earthers, people who believe in flat earth, what do they point to in the Bible that make them think that the earth is flat? Well, they have many verses. Just to, talk about them quickly. 1 Chronicles 16:30, where they talk about the earth is stable. The Revelation 7:1, talking about the four corners of the earth where the angels, I believe that's the same one where they said the angels withheld the wind from the four corners of the earth. Or Psalm 67:7, where it talks about the ends of the earth. All of the ends, God will go out to the ends of the earth to try to save people, or whatever scripture that refers to that passage, that phrase. All these passages, how can they take that and make it say something like that? These statements are idioms. And if you don't know what idioms are, they are expressions and little sayings that mean something, but not in the idiom in itself. So what do I mean by that? They are expressions and little sayings that mean something, but not in the idiom itself. What that means, for example, is raining cats and dogs. That's an idiom. We know it's not literally raining cats and dogs, but it's a saying or a phrase that actually means it's raining, but it means that it's raining heavy rain because it's raining cats and dogs. So when God said, I'll go to the four corners of the earth, I sent my angels to withhold the wind from the four corners of the earth. We do have north, south, east, and west. These are statements that God has said that throughout all the land, throughout all the earth, they're going to withhold the wind back. They're going to withhold the wind back. And so it's just like any like, so another statement, for example, where they say that this year for the Olympics, I heard this one, this year for the Olympics, we're going to gather all the Olympians, all the people from every corner of the earth. We're going to gather all of them from every corner of the earth, from China, from Russia, from America to Mexico. We're going to gather them from every corner of the earth. It doesn't mean the earth has physical corners. It just means that they're getting the people from everywhere in the world. So it's the same way with these idioms in the Bible. That does not mean flat earth. But what is the actual verse that can combat? Some people might say, I hear you, Jonathan, but you ain't got nothing that says the opposite. You coming with nothing. You coming at what they saying, but you ain't got nothing to combat what they saying. Well, let's do that. They ask, it is ironic that they actually use this verse that I'm about to say to sometimes try to support their view, but in actuality, it goes against their view. Isaiah 40 and 22. Now, it's crucial. It's crucial. Remember this. If you're reading the Bible, you have to understand that we have some things that are metaphors. We have some things that are similes or, analogies, analogous, a lot of things. But there are many things that are taken literal. Context tells you all that. Context is king. Context tells you all that. So now we have this passage. Like I said, let's read it because it actually goes against what they say. So Isaiah 40 and 22. Let's look at this and let me show you what it's saying. So it says that he sits. It's talking about God here. He sits enthroned above the circle of the earth, and its people are like grasshoppers. He stretches out the heavens like a canopy. Did you hear that? It says that he sits upon the circle of the earth. No, last time I checked, a circle ain't flat. Now they try to use this to try to say that it means that it is that flat earth with that oval dome underneath, and that's what they mean by circle. But that's not a circle. But that's what they try to take it to mean. The crazy thing is that you go to the original language and you'll see in the Hebrew that this is talking about like geometry, like a geometric, it's a circle. But then it goes deeper into the Hebrew Chaldean and it says it's natural sphere. So if you just look at the language and what they meant an actual sphere. So the same verse they try to use to come against a sphere world, that same passage supports a sphere world. So we live in an actual sphere. The guy's already shown it. He allowed science to show us what God has already made, and then God stuck a passage in there just so you won't say otherwise. And if you look at the original language, it actually is talking about a geometric circle or sphere. So I hope we got out of the way. So that is the flat earth argument, and I don't know why we still go about it like it's something real. So next thing, let's look at let's look at this because this is important. Now, dinosaurs in the Bible. Now, this is a big one because this is something that a lot of Christians, for some reason, or I don't know, they've been indoctrinated by so much evolution that they don't believe in evolution, but yet it's subconsciously in the back of their mind, and it's pushing on them, thinking that dinosaurs lived here by themselves for millions of years. Like, let's go into this. Like, it doesn't make sense, but let's do this because this is what we're gonna do. This is what we do. We're gonna let God's word speak, and then we're gonna allow. This is where I'm gonna pull in another resource, so I can, you build up your argument, and let's build up this argument of why dinosaurs were in fact living with man. First, because God has already spoken and said that, and then plus the body of research in what we have discovered. Why it hasn't shown anything otherwise. The science in this regard hasn't shown anything otherwise. So let's look at this, and let's bring in. So I don't know if you know about GotQuestions.org. They have like a lot of good answers. They basically a biblical establishment that answers hard, tough questions in the Bible. Doesn't mean that they always are perfect. Nobody are, but they oftentimes do great answers on many different questions. So let's look at the GotQuestions.org and let's see what let's see what they says. This is talking about the dinosaurs in the Bible. So let's see this. Let's read this right here. It says, those who believe in a younger Earth for the age tend to agree that the Bible does mention dinosaurs, though it never actually uses the word dinosaur. Instead, it uses the Hebrew word tannin. Yeah, tannin, which is translated a few different ways on English Bibles. Sometimes it's sea monster, sometimes it's serpent, and it's most commonly translated as dragon in the King James. The tannin appears to have been some sort of giant reptile. These creatures are mentioned nearly 30 times in the Old Testament. Psalm 74:13, 27:1, Isaiah, Jeremiah 14:6, and were found both on land and in the water. Another Hebrew word, Leviathan, transliterated Leviathan, is used 6 times in Scripture. Job 41:1, Psalms 104:26, and refers to some type of large, fierce sea creature. The description of Leviathan in Job 41 gives the impression of a strong yet graceful, unstoppable creature against which weapons are unavailing. Nothing on earth is its equal. Job 41:33. Another giant creature in the Bible describes that Job was familiar with the behemoth, said to be the prime example of God's handiwork. Job 40:19. New Living Translation. The behemoth is a huge plant-eating animal that dwells by the water. Its bones are like tubes of bronze, and its limbs are like rods of iron. Job 40:18. Its tail is likened to a cedar tree. Job 40:17. Some have tried to identify the behemoth as an elephant or hippopotamus. Others point out that elephants and hippopotamus have thin tails. Nothing comparable to a cedar tree. If you don't know what a cedar tree is, huge. It's strong, and it's actually bronze, meaning like it is thick and durable. Dinosaurs like the Brachiosaurus, the Apatosaurus, the Saltosaurus, on the other hand, have huge tails that could easily be compared to a cedar tree. Nearly every ancient civilization has left us with some sort of depicting of giant reptile creatures. Nearly every ancient civilization. Petroglyphs and clay figurines found in North America resemble modern depictions of dinosaurs. Rock carvings in South America depict images of creatures resembling Triceratops, Diplodocus, and Tyrannosaurus Rex. Roman mosaics, Mayan pottery, and Babylonian city walls all testify to man's trans-culture, geographically unbounded memories of these creatures. I mean, it can go on and on. Like, let's look at this one too. 13th century explorer Marco Polo wrote of seeing huge serpents in China, which he described at the forepart near the head. They have 2 short legs, each with 3 claws, as well as eyes larger than a loaf in a varying glare. The jaws are wide enough to swallow a man. The teeth are large and sharp, and their whole appearance is so formidable that neither man nor any kind of animal can approach them without terror. This is from Marco Polo. Hey, that's the guy. It says, so, are there dinosaurs in the Bible? The matter is far from settled. It depends on how one interprets available evidence. If the first 2 chapters of Genesis are taken literally, the result is a belief in a relatively young Earth and a conviction that dinosaurs and man coexisted. If dinosaurs and humans beings coexisted, what happened to the dinosaur? The Bible does not discuss that issue, but dinosaurs likely died out sometime after the flood due to a combination of dramatic environmental shifts and being relentlessly hunted to extinction. So, so what I mean by that is, well, not me, but what it means is that looking at the Bible and seeing what it teaches, the Bible does teach that dinosaurs live with humans, that they were around at the same time. It's just like this. I mean, it's like so much like evidence that in Job, Isaiah, Psalms, talking about like these creatures that, and based off the original language, that it was a reptile, but not just a reptile, a huge reptile, and not just talking about some type of like, people be like, oh, alligator's a reptile, or this is no. Even alligators at that time, if all those people at that time were referring to an alligator, they wouldn't have referred it to as huge, gigantic, that behemoth and that strong and mighty. Alligators are big. They would have been a little bit bigger in Job's day, but they ain't scared of that. I mean, it's something, but people hunt. They ain't scared of that. They can kill that because alligators is walking on those little legs down there. They talking about big creatures, something huge. So that's why I'm like, all the evidence points to the contrary. What Christians try to do when they try to merge evolution in the Bible, and that's where, or they try to merge concepts of evolution in the Bible, which is where you fall, which is where you get in trouble. So people might also say that dinosaurs, how can you say that Noah brought them on the ark, that it was around with humans? Dude, dinosaurs are not, they eat meat. They eat people. They destroy everything. So don't come at me with dinosaurs or with humans when we know that they would have been destroying everything. Well, first of all, they did destroy a lot of things. They do wreak havoc, the tyrannical ones, but where do you get your information from about their diet? I don't know, but let's go to the Word of God, because I don't know. I'm not sure why they say that they lived millions of years ago before Adam and Eve got here. That's not what the Bible says. So let's look at this. Genesis 1:29-30. You know what it says? Genesis 1:29-30 says that both humans and all of the land animals ate vegetables, like all of the grapes or nuts and berries and kale, spinach, whatever it is. That was the diet. That was the diet for humans, and I believe it was all land animals. That was the diet. That was the diet. It was nothing else. That was the diet. Guys, like, I give you that to eat. That was the diet. So when you come at me or come at anybody and say that, oh, they could have destroyed humans and they would eat them. No, God said all of them were vegetarians. So it's not what he says. So I don't see a lot of people bringing that fact up when they talk about this topic. That's clearly what it says. And then in Genesis 9, it goes on and says that after the flood, when Noah and his family got out, God was giving them different things, telling them different things. He said that in Genesis 9, he said that now the animals will fear you. Why is that so important? Because the animals didn't fear them at first. They were friendly. So that means lions, tigers, and bears, all of them would have been friendly, not fearing humans. So wouldn't that not apply to dinosaurs? So don't say that they was vicious and mean when God's like, they didn't fear them at first. When God literally says in Genesis 9 that now the animals will fear you. And then he said, not only that, now you can eat meat now. The same context that he said, now you can eat meat. He said in Genesis 1, saying that we couldn't eat meat, and said that animals are likewise, just like us, they eat vegetables too. And now he's saying that we can eat meat in Genesis 9. And he said the animals are not going to fear you. And God lumped us into the same context in Genesis 1, saying that we both couldn't eat meat, both humans and animals. And they're going to fear us. And now, they're going to fear you, so now they're going to attack you. So if they're going to fear you, now they're going to attack you. So now animals or dinosaurs are eating humans now, or now trying to attack the humans that will come afterwards once Noah and his family start making babies again. So that's what I'm like, when you get your information, where are you getting it from? I don't see people talking about these scriptures when people come in that stuff. I'm like, what's your answer for it? And please comment, do whatever, hit me up, because I wanna talk about this. I'm like, I need to hear your answers, because God said this, God said that. So why are you not accepting it? Yeah, I don't know. But now let's get to the younger creationists. Now, verse old. So it's not like, even though it's a big topic in debate, it's not much to it. I mean, there's stuff to it, but what I mean by that is it's not much to it. So, because if we just take what God has said, then we can understand what God has said. We could take it, and once we accept it, and that's what God meant when he said it. So let's look at this, and we're gonna dive deep into this passage or this video. We're gonna look at this video, and then we're gonna see what this doctor, this PhD astronomer, he has to say. He has something great to tell us, and we're gonna dive into what he says about the creation and how there's scientific evidence, or there's science doesn't have to automatically go against it, but it actually can go forward. So let's look at this video and we'll see what he's saying.
But I think several things jump out at me in the creation account. One is that many people think that everything during the creation week was instantaneous. Poof, a tree appeared where there was none. Poof, a whale appears where there was none. But that's not what the text generally says. There's a lot of process going on, very rapid process, but still process. For instance, did God make Adam just poof out of nothing? Well, no, he shaped his body out of dust of the ground. What about Eve? Well, he took from his side and made Eve. That was a process in either case. It was a quick one. It didn't take, hours or days. It happened less than a day.
But it was a process.
It still was a process. If you look at the count of the animals, not on the chapter 1, but in chapter 2, it speaks of the animals coming out of the ground giving rise to these things. If you look at the day 3 account, it talks about plants rising up out of the ground. It says, let the earth bring forth these plants, and the earth brought forth. If you look at those words used there in Hebrew, they're very active, dynamic terms. It's almost like these things are sprouting up out of the ground very rapidly. I think if you would have been there, it would have looked like a time-lapse movie. You would have seen growth that might take normally decades taking place in a matter of minutes or hours at the most. The normal growth abnormally fast. Why? Well, in another 2 to 3 days, you can have all sorts of critters and people that are going to rely upon those plants, because it turns out everybody was vegetarian to start with. And if you waited till they normally matured the way they normally do, Everybody would have starved.
Starved, yeah.
Because, even the fastest growing garden plants take a couple of months to reach maturity. So God had to mature these things fast, rapidly. He didn't make them mature, He matured them rapidly from what the language is telling you there. I believe you can interpret one day of creation in terms of another day. So I turn to the day 4 account. Not much information is given there, but I think God also rapidly made the stars and other astronomical bodies. And then, in order for them to fulfill their function to be seen, He had to rapidly bring forth that light, just as He brought plants and matured them quickly. He had to bring that light here. Now, I'm not suggesting the light was created in transit. That's one theory. You see, if you have light created in transit, the light we're getting from these distant objects didn't come from physical processes. It's like they were holograms or just illusions. I'm suggesting when we actually look at these objects, like the Andromeda Galaxy we saw a few minutes ago, we're looking at light that actually left that object.
Yes.
I believe that the Andromeda Galaxy is about 2 million light years away, but I don't for a minute think that the light has been traveling that long. I think we're looking at the universe in something close to real time. If the light's only a few thousand years old instead of a couple of million years old, well, that's pretty close to real time.
Yeah.
So I think there's a rapid maturing took place. Also, I'm not appealing to a physical mechanism. I'm appealing to a miraculous.
Sure.
And some of my creation science buddies have given me a little bit of grief on this because they're looking for scientific answers for everything. And you can give scientific answers so far back. But the writer of Hebrews, and also Paul writing to the Colossians, talked about the current sustaining of this world by the power of His Word. Moment by moment, the Lord sustains this world. I don't know how He does it, and maybe it's miraculous, but He does it in a consistent pattern, the way that God does things. He does them consistently and orderly. And we can study that. In fact, we can write equations that describe it. These equations we have, it's called physics. And so the study of physics is really the study of how the world is being sustained moment by moment. But you can't take that sustaining and extrapolate it back into the past, because eventually you'll bump up against creation in the past. And creation is a miracle. There's a certain point where the miraculous take place. And I think at some point, maybe it's stages, but certainly by the end of the creation week, God went from creating to sustaining. And if we try to push back the current sustaining, what we call physics, into the creation week too far, we're kind of committing the uniformitarian assumption. We accuse the evolutionists of. And
so if you understand that, you will understand that this is more than possible with God, because all things are possible with God. So that's not the issue. That's far from the issue. So what is another point that points to a young Earth, and which will make you young Earth's creations? Which, like I said, I lean towards that. I don't have a particular date and time. I would say sometimes less than 10,000 years, which is a normal view of that paradigm. But yeah, I lean toward that because of all the evidence, and that's why I'm trying to give you some of the evidence. And so you could come at it from different point of views, where you view old Earth creationists and say that you are a gap theory or day age theory, where the gap theory is there's a gap between Genesis 1:1 and then Genesis, the rest of Genesis. Like God created heavens and earth, there was a gap. Then which I don't understand that at all, because the text is clear. And the text is a narrative text. You can ask Hebraeus Steve Boyd, who he's a Hebraeus, he's an expert in the Hebrew language. He says Genesis is a narrative language. It's giving us a narrative of what happened based on the original language. And so if you look at that, and then you look at Genesis 1, God said God created the heavens and earth, and the rest of Genesis, God is just telling you how He did that. It's like you have first the summary. In the beginning, God created the heavens and earth, and then now the rest of Genesis, or the rest of those beginning chapters, He's telling you how He did it. So I don't get what the confusion is. The gap theory, day age theory, that each day is a long period of time. That's what we're about to get into right now, because like just understanding that it doesn't make sense. If you might ask, why can it not be that? Because it just does make sense. Like that's what I'm saying. And so I already gave you the light problem. Like God is able to do the whole light thing. So the day age theory, the reason why that part right there is kind of like off is because God said that in I believe it's Isaiah that he said that he made the earth to be inhabited. So if God made the earth to be inhabited, that was the reason why he made the earth to be inhabited. You telling me that God made the heavens and earth first, waited billions of years before he did any other stuff, and had the earth just sitting there. That's what I'm saying. What's logically possible? What's logically reasonable? And then first of all, then somebody else might have a comeback and say, well, remember, time is not the same thing to time. God's time is different than the time actually in the cosmos. It's different. I'm like, yes. Remember though what God is. God is outside of time. So when he made time, space, and matter, he made time, space, and matter and then entered time, space, and matter. When God actually, he said that his spirit hovered over the waters. So that means God actually entered time, space, and matter to create inside of time, space, and matter. Outside of time, space, and matter, he created time, space, and matter because there was no time, space, and matter to begin with. Whew! So God made time, space, and matter outside of it because there was none. Then once it was time, space, and matter, he entered time, space, and matter to create more space and matter inside of time. So on earth, God created different things. So where is all that coming from? It's because of what you originally said. You said that, or somebody might say, you said that, oh, God's time is different. No, but when God came inside of time, he operated and created things for things inside of time. So he created things that will relate the stars, because he said it. He said that when he created the heavens and the stars and all that, he said, let it be marked for seasons and times, or seasons and whatever type of original Hebrew language. Like it was supposed to be marked for time taking place. So that means God came in time once he created it and then set things to denote time whenever time has passed. So God is creating. So those things, he's not going to create things in time and let them just sit for billions of years. If that's not the reason why he created it in the first place. If God said, I created it to be inhabited. I created it to be inhabited. So that's why I created it. And so now to go to day age theory, also, if God said that he created the grass and he created the plant life, all that on one day. He did that. He created that before he created the animals. So he created that before he created the animals. And so people might also say that this is this whole light problem, which he answered, which Danny Faulkner answered, the light problem, where it said that the sun and the moon and stuff wasn't created yet. So how did God have the sun? Where did God get the light from if the sun hadn't been created yet? God is light. I mean, it's clear. It's clear as day in the scriptures. God is light. But he said, I'm not going to physically always be here in time. So I need something to give off light. I need something to give off light to do the things that light does without it being my light. One other a doctor, he's studied this extensively, and he talked about how another reason why God probably did it that way is so that we can see that the ultimate source of light doesn't come from the bodies that we see. God is the ultimate source of light. So he wanted himself to be pronounced and shown as light, so you can understand that I am light. All sorts of light come from me. But putting that aside, he is light, and so that God knew that he was going to be out of the way. He wasn't going to physically be in time always. So he had to create a light source to light up plant life, to light up to light up plant life, to give us life, a plant and a human life, because he wasn't always going to be physically in time to put that light there. And then he tells you, I'm also putting this light source here to mark time. So the day age theory, where it says that each day is a long period of time, that's partially why, like I said, it doesn't make sense. Also, since God created the plant life, getting back to that, since God created the plant life, he made the plant life on one of the earlier days. I believe it was day 3 or day 2. And so if he made it on one of those days, if he made it on one of those days, then that means, what happened to the symbiotic relationships that are required to make life possible? What do you mean, Jonathan? Plant life needs bees, butterflies, insect, and other bugs to pollinate the plants. So if there was no bugs around, the plant wouldn't make it. The plants would not make it. Some pollen can come from wind, and then some water residue on the ground, but it won't make it. It won't be able to sustain. It won't be able to sustain without because about 75% of pollination comes from insects. So without insects, the plant life would die off. So you're telling me God had the plant life here for billions of years before he created insects? He created insects on a separate day. So if you're saying the day age theories are different, the different days are different, like different long periods of time, you're saying something that physically cannot be done. In science, in time, that cannot be done. Plants cannot live that long without having those symbiotic relationships with bugs and with animals. Like it just cannot be possible. Well, Jonathan, you said that creation is a miracle, so God could just do it. He could just make it the plant stay that long. Exactly. But you can't use that for your argument and say I can't use it with my argument talking about the light problem, where it takes light a long time to come here. You can't say that I can't use and say that God can bring the light here, but you want to use that argument and say that it was a miracle God can allow the plants to be here for that long. You can't have a double standard. So what I'm saying is that the light took that long. The light didn't take that long because God pulled the light here because he is light. And then the same token, if you try to use the argument that it's day age theory, it doesn't make sense. You will have to use the same miraculous evidence or miraculous line of argument that I'm using, which you are critiquing me for using. If you're critiquing me for using the miraculous argument, you're going to have to turn around and use it yourself to justify the day age theory, because there's no way on a scientific, naturalistic explanation plants can stay that long without insects and bugs and animals. It doesn't make sense. So I mean these are the different things I hear, and please, I want to hear. I want people to answer me. I want people to please. I want to have dialogue with people. I want to have conversation with real people. I want to be like explain these things, because how can you explain them? I can already see my mind what type of explanation you're going to give, that you're going to try to have it to probably skirt around it. I don't know, but I'll be happy to dialogue with anybody, because I'm like, why are all these things not touched? Why are these conversations are not had and these specific points not addressed. So, if you like that again today, I hope I bless you. I don't know everything. I only know what God's revealed. But if God says that I'm saying something wrong, I pray that He helps me see it better, that I may say it correctly the next time, Lord's willing. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about, because God says in 2 Peter chapter 3, He says this, He talks about this specifically. He's like, in the last days, scoffers are going to become, and you know, he said they're going to be willfully ignorant. One of the other pastors that I saw, he said that means they're going to be dumb on purpose. I'm like, that was him, but the Bible does say that they're going to be ignorant on purpose, willfully ignorant about the creation, about the flood, and about the coming judgment. Two of those have been in discussion for like a long time. People have been saying the flood is not, it's only a local flood. Some people say it ain't a flood at all. God's like, I told you people are going to come and say this. And then creation, older creation, younger creation, not understanding what God clearly said. If God can tell His people what He did in Exodus chapter 20, I want you to model your life off of my creation. Work 6 days and rest and have a Sabbath day. How did the Hebrew people of Israel understand this to be? If God told them, I want you to model that and say, I want you to work 6 days and rest the 7, what do you think? What do you think they thought? You think they thought a long period of time? What, they need 1,000 years later for your science to come in and tell them what they originally knew that God meant? They need your science thousands of years later of the ages being long periods of time. They needed all that just to understand that. That's what you're saying, that they needed that. And if you say that, oh no, they knew that a long time ago, come on. They didn't understand those days being billions of years apiece or millions of years each day. Come on now. The Israelites, they knew each of those days were 24-hour days, and then rest that one Sabbath day. That's what they knew. And God told them to model that off of creation. He literally says, just as I created everything in the heavens, in heaven, in the stars, I created all that in 7 days. I want you to model your week after this. Where else you think we got a 7-day work week? Out of all the places in the world, where do we even get the 7-day work week if it wasn't for God modeling each day, saying this is a day, and then the 7th day you rest? Man, I hope I again bless you. All this got is real passionate, and I'm ready to discuss it, because I don't get some of the things I see, but hey, man, but everybody can learn. I need to learn by the grace of God. So hope you enjoyed this episode. Again, subscribe and like. Man, please do me that favor, man. I appreciate it. Get this video out to many people as you can, because they need to hear it. We all need to hear it. So I thank you and ask God to bless your heart today. This is, again, Jonathan Owens, the Word Spoken. I'll see you next time. Peace.